I've got 5 things today for people that are thinking about relocating to the Portland, Vancouver metropolitan area that are going to be very helpful for you, helpful in making your decision, and in particular for you high income earners, you want to pay attention to number 3. I've seen quite a few people over the years that have relocated to this area that fit within that category that this really hasn't been on the radar for them. And when it comes up, sometimes it comes as a little bit of a surprise. So you won't want to miss this one. Stick around. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, Living in Oregon. I'm your host, Seth Marchant, licensed real estate broker in Oregon and Washington. Or if you're new to this channel, Living in Oregon, we've got over 200 videos on this channel showing you what it's like to live here, touring neighborhoods, introducing you to some areas that you might not have otherwise been familiar with, and giving you lots of great information to help you decide if this is the right place for you. So if you want to see more videos like this, which we drop every single week, make sure and subscribe to this channel, or you can head over to the channel now if you want to check out some of those videos. And of course, as a licensed real estate broker, I invite you, if you have questions, to call, text, email, however you want to get in touch. You can hit that QR code. That'll take you to our website, or you can find all of our contact information in the description of this video below. Now, as a reminder, number 3 on this list is going to be important for you high income earners. Number 1 on the list, now it's been covered a lot, but unless you've been in this area the last couple of years, maybe the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you might actually not be that familiar with the weather, because the weather is kind of different now than it was in past decades. I've lived here my entire life, and the weather over the past 5 years has definitely been a lot different than it has been in previous decades. So what do I mean? Well, the first thing, when I was a kid, and you pay very close attention to this when you're a kid going to school, didn't miss school too much due to snow days. It was very, very rare. Whereas now in the last 5 years, we've had some pretty good little snowstorms that lasted for 2, 3, 4 days, depending on where you are at. And this can be important for some people to know because we are in the Pacific Northwest, where we have a lot of hills and mountains. So it's not like the Midwest where it's really flat, where if you have snow, you can shovel the snow. We've got snow trucks that can get around and plow the roads, which we have some of those here. But when you combine the snow and the ice with sloping hills or mountains, that's when you inevitably get people slipping and sliding and crashing. And so if you're somebody that needs to be able to always be able to go to the office and go to work, it is a consideration that if you are in a very sloped area, which is a lot of the Portland metropolitan area, you might have to miss a couple of days of work with some of the snowstorms that we've seen lately. The other side of that coin is the sun. We've definitely seen the sun a lot more. Our summers are kind of starting in May, end of May, getting into June, whereas in the past it would kind of rain through June and kind of into July. And now we're not really seeing the rainy season until, this year it was right around kind of like mid-October is when it kind of started consistently raining. I think leading up to like mid-October throughout like September, I think there might have been like 2 or 3 days where it rained, whereas in the past, usually it would kind of start raining right around the beginning of school time at the beginning of September. So we've got longer summers, which the weather is really perfect. You're talking about like 70s, sometimes into the 80s, very low humidity. So the weather, a good solid 3, 4, 5 months out of the year, probably more like 4 or 5 months out of the year is really perfect. It does rain a lot or have long periods where it's kind of gloomy. So, the one thing, if you're somebody that maybe gets depressed, I think that's the only type of person that might seriously consider not moving to this area due to the weather, because you do have some long streaks of gloominess. Aside from some of the issues we've had with snow or ice storms recently, I think a lot of people would tell you that some of the weather that we've had lately has been better than past decades. Number 2 on the list, the housing market. So if you want to see more updates about housing markets, again, subscribe to this channel. We do those updates about once a quarter where we go over data from our local MLS. And sometimes there's not much that has changed, although this past season, coming into fall and winter time, coming off of the summer, spring season, the market has been as slow in mid-2025, kind of as it has been since about 2019, so since before COVID and lockdowns. We've seen inventory rising, days on market lengthening, Most forecasts are predicting about 1 to 3% growth in a lot of areas, some stagnation, and maybe some dips in other areas. Anecdotally, I can tell you that even with the most recent data, I don't think it actually accurately reflects just how soft the market has been, specifically for sellers. So homes are sitting longer right now than they have been in the past 5 or 6 years, and maybe even going back beyond that. And so we're seeing about as much of a balanced market, in some cases maybe skewing towards a buyer's market, as we've seen since before 2020. And rates right now, which have a big impact on the market, are lower than they were about a year ago. And so buyers right now have more inventory to choose from with a lower rate. And with the information that we have, it looks like there's a decent chance that rates will be lower about 5 or 6 months from now when we get back into the spring market, when things are really going to start to pick up again. People in Portland like to wait till the end of the school season and kind of that rainy season to move. So things do pick up quite a bit in springtime. So I have to imagine that the market is going to be a little bit more competitive in spring or summer of 2026. But it is very tough to speculate on the real estate market. So if things do continue to trend the way that they are, this is going to be in 26 as soft of a market as we've seen in at least over a half decade. And so it's really going to open up a lot of opportunities for all of you buyers out there. We are still seeing competition in some cases. We are still seeing multiple offer situations. But again, it's about as balanced as we've seen recently. Number 3, this is that one that I mentioned that I've seen a fair amount of people over the years that I've helped relocate here, that this wasn't really that high up on the radar for them. But taxes. Taxes are one thing that you should probably know if, in particular, if you're a higher income earner moving to the state of Oregon. I'll get to Washington in just a second because that's going to be a little bit different. But in Oregon, our state income tax rate, the highest effective tax rate is just under 10% at 9.9%. And that starts at $125,000 a year single filer, $250,000 a year joint. But the real kicker is you can find some additional taxes within the city of Portland or within the counties that make up the Tri-County area of Portland, Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas County. So additional taxes for Multnomah County. For higher income earners, there is a preschool for all tax. It's 1.5% for $125,000 single, for $200,000 joint, and an additional 1.5%, making up 3% for $250,000 single and $400,000 joint filer income. So 3% on $400K, that's $12,000 that we're talking about. Now, Metro Housing Services for the Tri-County area, again, that's Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington County, there's an extra 1% for income over $125,000, $200,000 single, $200,000 joint, and additional 1% on business income tax over $5 million in revenue. Also, if you sell a business or some sort of asset, or it could be like a vacation home, a investment property in Multnomah County or in Portland, you might be subject to more taxes. And then finally, we have a Tri-Met metro tax, which spans all 3 counties, which is roughly about 0.8%. It gets tacked onto payroll taxes. So businesses are paying that through their payroll taxes. And then for self-employed, that would include people like myself, a realtor. So let's say you're making $200,000 a year, 0.8%. So you're looking at an extra $1,600 in taxes. So those are going to add up pretty quick. If you can get hit with all of those, it actually would give you the highest effective tax rate of any city in the country, including higher than New York. So Portland proper and then Multnomah County, which is where Portland is going to give you the potential for some of you higher income earners to pay the highest effective local tax rate in the country. Now, across the river in Washington, you do not have any state income tax. However, you have sales tax. As long as I can remember, it's kind of been a thing for some people to do the live in Washington, shop in Oregon hack. So you live right across the river, like say somewhere in Vancouver where you don't pay any state income taxes, and then you drive over to the other side of the river in Oregon where you do your shopping, grocery shopping, like whatever type of shopping. If you want to go through all the logistics of that, you can certainly do that and potentially save a little bit of money. Not recommending anybody does this too, but I've certainly heard of it. I'm not recommending it because I don't think it's legal, but you certainly hear about it if you have two homes, one across the river in Washington, one here in Oregon. Then you can, if you want to, again, it's not supposed to do this, but list your Washington residence as your primary address as opposed to Oregon where you might actually live. And in that case, you can avoid paying state income taxes. So there's some kind of tax hacks, some that are more kosher than others, but that is a thing here, being so close to the Oregon-Washington border. Now, of course, none of this is tax advice. Consult your CPA on any of these issues, but I definitely, at a minimum, recommend that you investigate these things if you are a higher income earner and thinking about relocating to this area. Number 4 on the list, not maybe necessarily something that you need to know, but something that we get questions about a lot, which is what is the homelessness situation look like? We have a new mayor. He got elected almost a year ago now and came into office in January. So he's been at it for maybe about 10 months or so. And a big thing that he ran on was eliminating unsheltered homelessness. In other words, just getting people at least off of the street into some sort of shelter. Kind of felt like, anecdotally, the situation sort of peaked around 23 and 24. And anecdotally, it kind of feels like walking around the city, hanging around the city, asking other people their perspective on the city. It feels like 25 has gotten a lot better. There is a new camping ban that is just actually recently, I think officially being enforced, in which in previous years people were not banned from essentially camping anywhere that they wanted to. And from what I understand, sweeps are happening often. And crime in some of these areas where there are larger shelters, from what I'm reading, is down in some spots. Downtown and the Old Town, Chinatown still feel rough in some pockets, but a lot of the East Side neighborhoods, Laurelhurst, Selwood, Alameda, Richmond, I think I hear from a lot of people feel dramatically safer and cleaner. That's what some of these sweeps are supposed to do, not just get people off of the streets and into shelters, but also to clean up trash. Now, there has been some pushback against this. In fact, just 2 days ago, Portland City councilors rejected a plan that would have removed millions. It was something probably like $10 million from the city's impact reduction program, which is responsible for these types of sweeps. So Portland City Council not exactly on the same page as to how they want to address this issue. And there was a study by Portland State University, which is right in downtown Portland, that did a head count. And they found that from 2023 to the beginning of 2025, so almost 10 months ago, it'd be nice if we had some more recent data during which the time of which we had a new mayor that's made these promises to have an impact on these things. So this doesn't reflect on him. Because the count was taken at January of 2025. But from 23 to 2025, they saw homelessness increase by 61%. That's across all 3 counties, Multnomah, Washington, Clackamas. Of course, most of that is going to be in Multnomah. But nevertheless, that's a pretty big jump. And looks like Portland Mayor Keith Wilson has a very big hill to climb. And will he be able to come through with his promise of eliminating unsheltered homelessness by the end of his first year in office, which is going to be in 2 months? It doesn't look like it. And I appreciate the ambition. You've got to be ambitious for projects like this, of course. But not having the city council on the same page and everybody maybe not being clear about what the ultimate goal is or what the goal should be, it's probably going to make it really an uphill battle to get, which looks like there's something like 12,000 people off of the street in the next few months. So short of the long, we can see some things happening on the back end. We can see the city trying to do some things to fix these things. We're not seeing maybe the traction that they might have hoped for. It's hard to see that they're going to be able to hit their goals. But again, anecdotally, I would say that this situation does seem like it's at least a little bit better. Again, it feels like it kind of like peaked in 23 and 2024. And again, this is mostly Multnomah County. Washington and Clackamas County, kind of the suburbs surrounding the Portland metropolitan area, definitely have not felt this impact like, the major metropolitan, the core of the metro has. Probably just like most other major cities, they have seen some impact. There have been some changes in Washington or Clackamas County, but it hasn't been near what we've seen in Multnomah County as far as like the rise in homelessness. Number 5, how about the job market? We've got a lot of great companies here: Nike, Intel, Adidas, Columbia Sportswear, and a lot of these companies have done layoffs recently. I know Intel has laid off at least 1,000 people, might be in the thousands. Just for the Portland metropolitan area, I think it's in the 10,000s. Internationally, wherever else they have offices. I know I've personally worked with people that have relocated here, that were renting, that were thinking about buying a home, that worked for Intel, but they had to wait to see if they were maybe potentially going to be in the next round of layoffs before they wanted to buy a property. And I know a lot of other brokers that are kind of in that boat. So, aside from on paper, it's definitely something anecdotally that a lot of people have been impacted by. But some of the data I've seen, some of the forecasts for 25 and 26 are starting to show some steady growth. And I think some of these places are starting to hire again. We've also got a lot in the healthcare industry here: OHSU, Legacy, Providence. We do have a market here for green energy and semiconductors, creative marketing, advertising, startup jobs. Some of those do exist, but I think they're a little bit tougher to get into. I hear about people saying that you really need a local connection to get into some of those places. Unemployment is considered low at 4.1%. So the job market is kind of a mixed bag. There's a lot of potential. I think we're trending in the right direction now, 25 going into 2026, whereas we saw a lot of layoffs in 23 and 24. A lot of the jobs in the places that I mentioned are going to be on the west side around Beaverton and Hillsborough. So people relocating here tend to relocate closer to those areas that are looking for job opportunities. And of course, we get a lot of people that have moved here that are remote lately. I'm not sure if this feels like a great area to live if you're remote, or it just happens to be that a lot of people are remote, and just by sheer numbers, we're going to bump into some people that are remote that are moving here. But I've definitely helped a lot of people relocate that are remote. And if you're somebody that's thinking about taking the next steps, if you have any questions at all about relocating to the Portland, Vancouver, Oregon, Washington, that kind of like metropolitan area, we do service some people at the Oregon coast as well. I invite you to call, text, email, hit the QR code if you want to visit our website. Find all of the contact information in the description of this video. And if you want to see more videos that are very comprehensive about what it's like to live in Oregon, focusing around the Portland metropolitan area, make sure and subscribe to this channel. And if you found any good info in this video, give me a thumbs up. Lets me know that I'm doing a good job. And until next time, take care, everyone.